Hi, and welcome to the Future of Dermatology podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Faranak Kamangar, board-certified dermatologist. We are here to talk about anything and everything dermatology related. You'll hear from me and my guests who are dermatologists, physicians, experts, scientists, residents, and medical students in the field of dermatology. We publish weekly, so if you like what you hear, hit that subscribe button and show us some love, and thank you for joining us.
All right, we're back with our Dermato-Metabolic series, but today is a fun episode. We're doing one of our Ask Me Anythings, and our special guest is none other than Faranak Kamangar, and she has a list of questions that I have not seen, which is why these are fun, because then you get stumped sometimes, and that's the fun part. But take it away, Sam.
Well, thank you so much for taking time. I posted your video about the GLP-1 receptor agonists that you had. And I got a lot of questions on my post. And I promised everyone that I'm going to actually reach out to you and ask you to get the proper answers for all of them. So I want to make sure you all know that they're not medical. They don't have a medical background. These are just average, regular people who questions. Are very interested about these GLP-1s. So the other thing I want to say is that the conversations have changed about beauty. A lot of women, when we get together, we talk about beauty. It used to be fillers and Botox and what skincare you use and everything. And now it's changed about, anti-aging within inside of your body instead of just the surface, the skincare and all of that. So that's why these conversations are coming along. And I think it's the best if you kind of go over the difference between all of them and I know your episode explains it beautifully, but just a quick.
For sure. I'll do a little recap again. So if you listen to her, I think a week ago or 2 weeks ago, we started with 2 weeks of Dermato-Metabolic series because this was a topic that we were asked about. Of course, metabolism is really hot right now. But what we talked about is in one episode specifically about what GLP and GIP medications or the class of incretin medications are. And in the other, we actually talked about how we should be looking at insulin resistance in dermatology, which is important for our field because of all the conditions that are inflammatory and have that metabolic component to them. But sounds like Sam's questions are a lot focused on the incretins, which is what everyone's asking about: Ozempic and Wegovy and Mounjaro, and those are the GLPs, GIPs. Yeah. So if we're focusing on those, the main differences are, of course, these medications. People kind of put them all in the same category. It's kind of like Botox. Every neuromodulator is called Botox. Mm-hmm. Once you get that name brand, who did it first marketing? So everybody calls it Ozempic, even though Ozempic face is attached to Ozempic, but any of these medicines can do it. But the class are incretins, and they've been around for a really long time. They're not new. I think that's the important thing that patients really going to ask about. GLPs, like Ozempic and other ones, target the GLP molecule, and then the dual ones have GLP and GIP, the name of being tirzepatide or Mounjaro, or Zepbound is the name for the weight loss indication. And then there's going to be newer medicines coming out where they combine multiple targets. So like the GLPs, GIPs, glucagon. We're learning a lot more about what you have to put in and what ratios to get your metabolism to be stabilized and then lose fat, but not lose too much muscle. And then different implications for different diseases. So we don't know yet for dermatology. We have evidence with the GLPs and the GLP plus GIPs that they're doing a good job with psoriasis, hidradenitis suppurativa, and those conditions. We don't know quite yet if it's just the weight loss or if it's weight loss plus the anti-inflammatory effects of these molecules. So I think that's important to know down the line, because if it's just weight loss, you're going to pick the molecule that causes the most weight loss. That's better at weight loss. But if there is maybe a specific thing that GLP is doing in dermatology, we need to kind of understand that, because the GLP analogs have they're homologous at a 90% plus rate for GLP, where when you go to GLP plus GIP, you're going to decrease your affinity for GLP. So there are differences between them, even though we kind of group them in the same family. And then when the triple ones come out, then we need to understand, so what does it mean and what ratio? So really cool field, really important. And it's kind of changing the paradigm of fix your metabolism and the inside, which goes back to the anti-aging too. I don't think our patients really want to come in and have like their cheeks super filled up and their lips and it's changing. Thank God it's changing.
For sure.
But beauty is taking a different route, and health is becoming more trendy, being healthy, looking healthy,
building muscle,
better, it's all going towards the right way.
Yeah.
So
speaking of supplements and nutrition and all that, I see a lot of ads for GLP-1 products for like in tea and supplements and vitamins now and edibles and all that. So what are they FDA approved?
That's a great question, because anytime something is hot, everyone is going to try to come up with some product with like that label on it, because that's just marketing genius. I'm going to equate that to kind of like collagen, right? Because we do procedures in the office that build collagen. So then people have taken collagen and they're like, well, put it on your skin, take it orally in this form. And that doesn't always work. So, just taking the name of the thing and sticking it on and like I saw a product the other day that said like hair Botox or something. I was like, what? That doesn't even make sense. But they're just taking things that are like, hey, we like hair, we like Botox, let's put those together. So as with anything, I would say avoid all the hype stuff. They're not going to do, and a lot of the over-the-counter things, they don't do much and they don't do much harm. So they're harmless, but sometimes they do harm. So I'd be careful with those. There are the FDA-approved medications. I wouldn't even do the compounded GLPs that are coming from who knows where. They're not FDA approved. Like stick with FDA approved medications. The companies that make the FDA approved drugs are actually coming out with better and better programs where you can actually get those specific medications for less. And so hopefully they become more equitable, because cost is an issue. But safety wise, without the access piece, if we're just looking at safety, stick with FDA approved products, because they go through very rigorous testing before they come out.
I also want to ask you, who qualifies for this? I mean, what's a healthy weight? When do you start?
Yeah.
And I also want to ask, what's the perfect age and like growing age? Is that when you shouldn't do it, or?
Yeah, that's a really good question, because it seems like the marketing seems like everybody should be on a GLP medication. And of course, that's not true. Not everybody needs to be on it. But for the patients who are having trouble losing weight with obesity, it's been a game changer. There's many patients that only bariatric surgery used to be the only option for, and now they can actually medically lose weight. So for the people who need it, it's been a total game changer. But there's a lot more people on it than need to be on it. So that's a really good question of, should you use it if you're just trying to lose a few pounds? Should you use it? Let's say, like you asked, is there too old of an age to start? And I don't think there's any too old of an age to start, but at later ages, muscle does become really important. Putting on weight sometimes is harder for our elderly patients. So there's special populations that we need to kind of be careful. As for how young you can start, unfortunately, we're seeing so much more childhood obesity. That's the unfortunate thing. And some of these medications, especially for the diabetic indications, do have down to age 12. And that's medication specific. You can look up the package inserts and see what ages they've been FDA approved for. And I'm sure like an endocrinologist and specialist will use these medications even off label. So I think the biggest population where the question is what if you don't meet obesity criteria? And obviously you're not diabetic, because that would qualify. What if you're trying to lose weight, but you're just having a tough time? And so a lot of these patients can pay out of pocket. So there's the access issue, right? There's that whole thing. And then there's the medically indicated part of it. And I think what people have to realize is these are chronic medications. So if you have obesity, we see obesity as a chronic condition. So you're going to start one of these medications and you'll stay on it. The trials really show, they set up trials in a way where everybody's getting medication, and then they'll have a point where some stop getting medicine and then the rest keep going. The groups that stop getting treated, the weight comes right back. So it's not like it's not to give you a jump start unless you make huge changes. And I think the special category here, which I think, again, this would be patients that probably would qualify under obesity, but if they're having so much excess weight that they really can't exercise, it's actually hard to move, their joints hurt. So maybe in that special subgroup, getting the weight off and then really changing your lifestyle and having exercise, diet, maybe you can come off of them, but that's a very special subset.
And is the rebound like the same for all those medications, or some are less?
Yeah, I think if you stop it, the weight's going to come right back. But then also what's different is what happened to your body composition while you were on these medications. The GLPs have much more alone. The GLPs alone have much more muscle loss compared to GLP plus GIPs. It seems to be a little bit protective in that way. You still get muscle loss with GLPs and GIPs just because you're basically putting yourself in less calories. You're putting yourself in extreme caloric restriction. And so your body's going to use up whatever energy source you have. You want it to mostly use fat, but you can't really choose it down to that point yet anyway, because these medicines are going to be more and more specific. So muscle is going to go. Muscle is it's your engine in your body.
Sure.
Muscle burns energy. So if you're losing your muscle, when you're done with these medicines, your metabolism is going to be worse. When people say your metabolism slows as you ages, that's just muscle. It's purely muscle. Your muscle goes down as you age, and that's what slows down your metabolism. If you see like 70, 80-year-olds who've kept up their muscle mass, there's no loss of their metabolism, right? Like there's still, you have to work really hard to maintain that, but if you can do it, there's no, major loss. So basically, you don't want to leave yourself after a bout of these medicines with a body composition of decreased metabolic rate than before, if that makes sense. Because then you're kind of a little bit putting yourself in like a worse position than you were before. So you have to be careful with that. It's kind of trendy. A lot of people are going on these medications. They're like micro dosing where they're like, well, I'm just going to do it a little bit, but however much dose you do it in, whatever weight you're losing, it's going to be a certain ratio of fat and a certain ratio of muscle. So it's not like you can not have any of the side effects or not have this happen if you're at a lower dose. Lower dose will slow down your weight loss, which is good too. You don't want to have rapid weight loss, but it's not going to change how the composition is lost.
Right now that we're talking about age, actually, we have another question from one of our viewers that the claims about preventing from Alzheimer's and how it improves inflammation and all of that. Does it help our cardiovascular or the Alzheimer's or any benefits in that?
Yeah, that's a really great question. And I think we're going to have a lot more studies specifically knowing rates and things like that. But the root of it all is a lot of these conditions are metabolic conditions. So we, of course, know like diabetes, type 1, type 2, like those are classic metabolic conditions. You send to the endocrinologist. But then there are all these other fields, like we see inflammatory skin disease, the neurologists see all sorts of dementia, Alzheimer's, that can be traced back to your metabolism or cardiovascular, like you said, right? Our cardiologists they're all seeing these conditions that started decades ago with the root cause of an dysfunctional metabolism. And then it's presenting in different ways and it's ending up in different specialist offices, but it's the same thing. If you've had a dysfunctional metabolic system for decades, things are just not going to work as well. Your engine is not working very well, right? It's kind of like your like phone battery's just been running on like red for decades versus like fully charged, right? So every cell of your body is just like in survival mode for decades versus optimally working and being able to repair itself. So if you're able to fix your metabolism earlier, you're going to get rid of all of this stuff, really. And so we don't know like the exact rates, and there's all these other factors for different conditions. But for sure, if you can keep the weight down, if you can have a healthy body composition and your metabolism, your mitochondria, your electron transport chain system, if everything is just working better, you're going to be better off. Like we get our cars fixed all the time. Why don't we do that for our body, right? You need maintenance, and we're living longer, hopefully all of us, but it's not like, thousands of years ago where everybody was gone around 20 or age 30. We're living longer. So your body needs better maintenance for a longer time. And so it's funny going back to the original, like we're going more from beauty from the outside to inside. I mean, you can stick like a Ferrari red paint on a not Ferrari. I was going to say Prius, but I don't want the Prius drivers.
The new Priuses are really nice.
The new Priuses are very nice. The Prius of the early 2000s. Let's put it that way. You can put the Ferrari red on there, but it's still not a Ferrari, right? Yeah. So, and that's probably, please don't stop listening if you're a Prius driver. It's a great car. But the point is, you need to, it's not about what you're putting on the outside. You have to fix the engine underneath. And that's what the metabolism is. So no matter what you're doing to kind of patch things up, if you haven't fixed the engine, you're going to be just running on fumes. And if you do that over decades, you're going to develop chronic conditions.
Do you think GLP-1s are being overhyped by media and influencers? And I mean, they've as you mentioned before in your episode, they've been around for a long time. Uh, Diabetic patients have been using it. Why now? Why is everybody talking about it now?
So for diabetes, we've known that it worked. And then since we started to notice that they're losing weight, they became super hot. And then they got the weight loss actual indication. And they're really good at weight loss. But I do think they're getting overhyped. And they're also, the other sad thing is like diabetic patients aren't able to get the medicines that they need. There's a shortage of these medications, which is a problem. But I think we're going to probably swing again back. People are overusing them. I mean, you see like the celebrities and everything on these shows, and they've lost too much weight. And too much of a good thing is not a good thing either, right? Like they've gone so far where you look at them and you're like, man, that can't be. I mean, I don't have their body composition, but their body composition can't be healthy because at some point you're going to dig into your bone, to your muscle. Like that can't be good long-term either. So it is being overdone and overhyped. For the right population, they're amazing. But if you're overdoing it, it's just like overdoing anything. You can overdo Botox, you can overdo fillers, you can overdo GLPs. So,
you mentioned this on your episode that I highly recommend, by the way, for everyone to listen and watch. A lot of people are coming to get fillers and to kind of refill the Ozempic face. Yeah. So, do they dissolve faster now when you're on Ozempic? How does that work?
Ozempic face. This is like a whole new category of aesthetic medicine. I guess when we talk about the business of dermatology, maybe it's a good thing because we're like, well, thank you for creating a whole other problem that we need to fix. But so Ozempic face, but all the incretins can do this. Ozempic just gets stuck with the bad press in that regard. But I guess any publicity is good publicity. It's just more people saying Ozempic. Yeah. But the face and then the butt, the Ozempic butt is also a thing. That's also a thing. So basically with the face, what you're doing is losing that subcutaneous fat in the skin. So I think this actually relates to the last thing we just talked about. That's too much weight loss. I think if you've lost so much weight that you're now literally going to your subcutaneous fat in your face, maybe slow down the weight loss, right? Like and what people don't realize is the fat in your face has a lot of biological function. It has stem cells, it has a lot of things you need, and it's right underneath the dermis, and it feeds into the epidermis, and there's molecules there that are doing a lot of work. So you don't want to replace that fat with just hyaluronic acid or fillers or, Sculptra. I mean, you can, and we do, and then, you can charge people for it. So there's a business around that. But the right thing is to just put in your own fat or autologous fat transfer. You can see a plastic surgeon and they could but again, that's not maybe the same fat either, right? So I think just keep your own facial fat, put on a little bit of weight. People are trying to lose weight down to, when I've talked to our patients, they're trying to go for like, well, but if I lose a little bit of weight or put on weight, the love handles are going to come back. Or they're like, they're going for these specific things and losing the global picture of what's happening to their body. But you can do specific weight loss on other parts of your body. So I think you're better off keeping because this is as Dr. Kathy Fields said, this is your real estate. This is your money shot right here. Sure. Focus on this, prioritize the face, prioritize that facial fat, and do some body contouring.
That was my next question. Like, what's a good balance between diet, working out? Should we do this when it should be our last step, or is this before lipo?
Yeah,
like, what's the order? Like, are there other ways to achieve this?
So this is, I think we're now talking about like that very highly aesthetic patient, right? So it's because they're the patients that we just want to get them healthier and we want to get the weight down and the metabolism. And then there are the people who are really on top of their health. They're doing all the things. They have the glucose monitor, they have the apps, and they have they're really on top of everything else. And they're like, well, how do I modulate that last bit of weight? The best way to do it is off these medicines. If you're in that category and you can exercise, get your muscle up. I mean, that's like, it goes back to like, Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 80s on Muscle Beach, you go back to the basics. If you can get your muscle up, the weight will fly off because your basal metabolic rate is determined by your muscle content in your body. And if you look at a total daily expenditure chart, that area is the largest of where your muscle is lost. Like exercise is even, energy lost to exercise is like a tiny little sliver. That's why you can't exercise off a bad diet or poor muscle. As much as you exercise, if you don't have a large engine burning fat and all of that, like your muscle, and you're not going to get anywhere. So for that patient, I would say put on muscle. That's the best way to do it. If you're going to go on GLPs for for weight loss, just make sure you check your composition first. And you're taking in a lot of protein, but you also have to do weight bearing. You have to actually do some lifting to build muscle just by eating protein or taking in creatine. You're not going to just build muscle. You have to put some work in to get the stress on the muscle to tell it that the body now needs to do more work. So build muscle. That's basically how it works. That's how people like that work in physical jobs rather than sitting in an office are going to have more muscle because their body's constantly saying, hey, the kind of work you do daily requires more muscle. But if you're sitting in an office, your body's like, you don't need any muscle. You just have to sit.
Yeah.
So you need to give your body this, and your body will figure it out. It will give you enough to do what you need to do. And that's why weight loss is hard too, because if you're keeping a certain level of calories every day, your body will adjust to keep your weight at the same thing all the time. So it's almost really like if you are eating very little and you go to eating a little bit less, it's hard to lose weight that way because your body will still hold on to fat. It knows kind of what body composition you need to do the tasks that it thinks it needs. That's why you need to kind of up the muscle and pressure so it's getting those signals that, hey, this body needs to do more. It needs more of that. So that's probably over a long answer, but it goes back to just exercise physiology and getting your body composition right. So there's no easy fix. There's no Band-Aid. GLPs are not easy. I think that's the thing that people need to realize. This is not like some easy, weight loss has never been easy. And this makes it more possible because it was impossible for some people, but it's not like this easy fix of like, let's lose 3 pounds before a wedding. That's not what these medicines are for.
That's my last question that I want to ask you. As you said, it's not easy. There are some complications with it. And I'm going to ask you something that is very awkward, but a lot of people bring up constipation and they say you can take other supplements to help with that. And nutritional deficiencies that you can start getting. And so what do you recommend
100%
there?
Yeah,
because the challenges
GI issues are not easy. Like we've always known this in medicine. Anything we give you that messes with your GI tract, you're going to call us a little bit angry about it. That's even simple things like when we say supplement with iron, and if you take the wrong iron, you're going to call us if you're taking a lot of iron and you're unhappy. Or like medicines like for psoriasis, like Apremilast or Otezla, that causes some GI issues. Like we know that, right? So we have to do a bit of hand holding with our patients when they start medicines like this. So GLPs, of course, they work on many different mechanisms in the body. They work in the brain, on the hypothalamus, but the main area they work is your gut. So you're going to get some gut symptoms. And this has to do with how fast you go up in your dose, how much you're eating, all of that. So, and hydration. If you're going up really slowly, if you're having all the weight loss in the beginning, you're going to have a lot of nausea and GI symptoms and possible constipation, and you're not going to feel great. Yeah. It's not like an easy thing to do. And then you're going to get some feedback to eat less. That's basically how it works. You get, less calories in. But you could potentially not feel great for some time. Usually these symptoms, go away if you're able to hydrate, eat less greasy foods, just generally have a better diet. And ideally in 4 to 6 weeks, things should be feeling good. But there are still people that have symptoms.
We had a question about actually alcohol consumption and that.
Yeah.
Is it okay to drink alcohol?
That's a really good one too, because with alcohol, you're going to get more dehydrated. Alcohol causes kind of spikes in your sugar. It could actually, if you have a lot of alcohol, you could even get hypoglycemia, which you have to be careful. These medicines are for diabetes, right? So you can get low sugars. If you exercise a lot, you could get low sugars. If you have a lot of alcohol consumption, you could get into actually hypoglycemia. So I'd be careful with alcohol content too, because now you're kind of, putting your body in a low calorie state, potentially could be getting dehydrated, and alcohol can make all of that worse too. So you probably won't feel great, if you have a lot of alcohol.
Well, thank you so much for answering all these questions. It's very nice. We all have comments. We read a lot. There's a lot of studies and research about it, but when you put it in the common, language for everyone to understand, it's just great. Answers a lot of questions for our viewers. So thank you. Yeah, thanks for your time.
Absolutely. The Ask Me Anything episodes are really great because you never know what question is coming at you, but it's actually good to think about because our patients will be asking us these questions in clinic. So thank you for collecting all the questions that came in, and hopefully that was helpful. And of course, if there's more questions, everybody post it on our podcast because we love creating episodes that answer
it's a
what people want to hear about.
two-way conversation. So we definitely want to hear about you, and definitely go check out this episode that she did 2 weeks ago about all the GLPs and explaining everything thoroughly. So thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you for listening to the Future of Dermatology podcast. Remember to hit that subscribe button and share the podcast with your friends. The more you share and subscribe, the more we'll be able to grow and share our dermatology knowledge. If you have burning dermatology questions, feel free to leave them in the comment below, and we would love to address them in a future episode. And please note that this podcast is not intended to substitute for medical advice from your doctor.